welcome to the newest edition of Keeper's Corner for a playoff level 1 special. I'm Jeremy Nagar. This is Coach Dan Keefer. Coach, how are we doing today?
Doing good.
So we finished the regular season at Amery on Friday night, and the weather was interesting.
Yeah, really tough conditions.
Yeah.
You know, the game started out, the field was in pretty good shape, but you know, as that game went on, it just there was really no grass between the hashes. It was all mud.
Right.
And, you know, it was just difficult to move. Kids couldn't move. It was very difficult to evaluate much because, you know, really a big part of it was just trying to keep your footing.
Right.
That was one of the strategic things that we did. We won the toss and we didn't take the ball just because the thought was, hey, field conditions are going to be better.
Correct.
Let's try to get one on the board, and it did work out. We did move it better early.
Right.
But, you know, the conditions just got tough. I was happy, you know, like, I didn't feel like I know we didn't fumble the ball. I mean, ball did go on the ground. We never turned it over on a fumble.
Correct.
Which that's quite a feat in conditions like that. I mean, if you could see the kids' hands, like they'd come out, and one of the things that we realized is, like, if they have the wrist tape, that becomes like a sponge. It holds the water.
Okay.
You know, you can wipe your hands off, but if your arms are soaking wet, and gravity, you can't keep your hands dry.
Right.
So a lot of the inability to pass as the game went on, you just literally could not hold the ball.
Right. And the ball, and trying to keep the ball dry.
I mean, we had you know, 2 kids. That's what they did, and they were protecting them and covering them. But you know, to be honest, you know, we rotated several balls in, but it didn't take long.
Right.
And it was very difficult conditions, obviously.
Right. So, I mean, we get there. It's a steady rain, and it had been a steady rain since.
Yeah.
6 o'clock-ish Thursday night. You know, there was already standing water on the field when the game started. Right. We take the ball, we go down and score pretty easily. I mean, we had, I think, 3 completions on that drive. We have a touchdown, passing touchdown into the wind to take the lead. I think force a turnover immediately, go right back down, and we're at the 1 yard line going in.
Yep.
And Cal goes down.
Right. Yeah, he just kind of a fluky thing where you know, I really do think the field conditions had a lot to do with the injury, because he planted, he got tackled, and then there was a Amery kid that inadvertently he just fell, and you could see that the kid's helmet like hit him right near the shin, and that's where he had the injury, you know, like lower part of his shin. So and that's a big deal. I mean, he's a great player, and obviously we were. You know, had to overcome that injury, and Graydon Monacan came in, and at first, you know, there was certainly an adjustment. There was we had a couple bobbles and whatnot, dodged a bullet on a throw that could have been a pick 6. But you know, all things that, you know, it's a high pressure situation.
Right.
But you know, I thought as the game went on, Graydon got into his groove. You know, he obviously had a huge run that, you know, won the game. You know, the long 44-yard jet follow play, and another play that was a huge play in the game was the 2-point conversion.
Yeah.
Because he went and he dove at the pylon, and I'm about 75% sure it was a touchdown.
Oh, I think you could go higher.
But what happened? He lost the ball.
Yep.
Did he lose the ball? I think he just hit the pylon, and then just fraction of a second after it came out, the ball was out before he came to the ground.
Absolutely. But I think the pylon helped dislodge the ball.
I think you're probably right on that. But I mean, it was close, and you know, you could argue, you know, that.
And the Amery did.
Yeah, I'm sure they did.
Yep. So when I rewatched it, because my view, we got to sit in the press box, which was lovely, except one of their windows was like smeared. And so when I was looking through the clear window, things were great. When Nick would get tired of looking through the smeared window, he would slide his window over, and then I would look through the smeared window.
Sure.
So on that particular play, our angle was pretty good, and it looked like he dove.
It was a great play.
You reach out, and on a 2-point conversion, like Nick said during broadcast, there's zero risk, because if you fumble it,
we're going to kick it either way.
Right. And it looked, from our vantage point, obviously we know what we wanted to see, but it looked like he reached out, touched the pylon knocked the ball out.
Yeah.
But it's good once it touches the plane.
It was a super close play, and obviously in the game that was a big deal.
The difference in the game.
Yeah, I thought defensively, you know, the defense played really good.
Absolutely.
Especially in the second half. I thought they did a really nice job. We did a nice job. The Hopkey kid's load.
Yeah, he is.
I think he had 90 yards and 27 carries, which it's not terrible. We could have done some things better, but I thought our kids played really hard, and they did rise to the occasion. We were struggling to move the ball. I think everybody was struggling. You just couldn't. Right. You couldn't really pull and get moving. It was just everything was so slow. So we tried to do some downhill things. We tried to stay on the hashes a bit because we felt like the footing was a little better out there, but it was just tough.
Well, the footing was better on the south side of the field.
Yeah,
where we didn't play any of the.
It was crazy. The whole game was played on the north end.
I've never seen something.
Yeah, it was just that. You wouldn't think that would be the case, but it was the case.
Well, and it looked like going back to Graydon's touchdown run. It looked like once he was able to get to the edge.
Yeah.
That he was the only kid that could
excel. He had good footing, and he was. Yeah, he was definitely. He looked fast on that one.
Yeah. So Graydon comes in. He didn't play any offense in week 8, right?
Yeah, he had a.
He has a thumb
injury on his non-throwing hand, but he was hurting pretty significantly.
But the inability to catch a football,
and
then you going into a snapping situation with wet balls, wet hands. I mean,
it was a deal where like our snap cone is a clap.
Right.
He did not. He took reps during the week, obviously, but he was not clapping until late in the week because of it's painful in his thumb.
And to
so
even to catch a snap,
right?
I mean that, and Noah's not. I mean, it's not a nice toss. You need the ball to get there there quickly, and so it looked like he had an adjustment period, not only trying to catch the ball in bad weather, but trying to catch the ball in a way that didn't hurt himself. And you're trying to find a mesh point, and the timing is screwed up because of the weather. There's just a lot of things working against him as a backup coming into that in conditions that were not great, and to lead a comeback.
Right, it was.
Isn't pretty impressive.
Right, it was. That was awesome. So, and guys, certainly rallied around Graydon too, and that was good. He was the offensive player of the game, so that was good to see too.
Okay. So moving over, you talked a little about defense and how we were able to bottle Hopkey up. Their other runner, the smaller kid, number 2, Cruz Uhas, went out with an ankle sprain, and that's really where their offense
that made a difference.
Dimension.
Yeah, he's a nice player. I thought defensively for us, I thought Jackson Johansson and Taden Holdorf both really played good. I mean, they're mutters, man. They found a way, and I thought there was some, I thought their pad level was good for the most part. I thought the D line was solid without a doubt. Obviously we were mixing a little bit because Cal was playing on D, so we had to, play a little shell game there. But
it looked like Colton was playing closer to the line of scrimmage. Was that?
Yeah, he did. In certain formations he was up there. He's a pretty aggressive kid, and you can throw his weight out. It just doesn't matter. He's just going to fly in there and hit it.
Right. I made the comment to Jackson's mom today that maybe he should consider wrestling because the Hopkey kid doesn't get taken down all winter.
Yeah, that's true.
Jackson did it repeatedly on Friday night.
That's right. That's a good point.
And I mean, I like basketball players, but he looked. I mean, the ability to get. We had a number of guys one-on-one where it's like this kid is not small.
No.
I mean, he looks big on TV, but he's a big guy to take down, and really didn't have a lot of yards after contact. And the weather may have played into that too, but he didn't run through our guys or run over guys like maybe you worry that someone that size could.
And I also think the footing, it made it harder for everybody, including Coy Hopkey, to really get it going. Like change of direction was very, very difficult. You just couldn't drive and use all the. Right. So I think there was a little advantage there, maybe easier to tackle him because you're just not going to have the same power.
But offensively, where you're trying to go. And defensively, you're reacting to where somebody is going.
Right.
So, I mean, I think offense always kind of has the advantage.
I would agree. And, we were really hopeful that we would be able to, throw the ball. But it became apparent as the game wore on. I mean, it's just like, hey, we can't do it. We literally cannot do it. So that made it a little bit more challenging too because it was fairly obvious that it was going to be a difficult night to, so you had more run defenders that were closer to the line of scrimmage, and we just really couldn't do a lot of what we like to do.
So Can you take really anything out of that game? I mean, are there things that you're looking at on film and saying, okay, here are things we need to do better, here are things...
Well, I think the big thing was that we got it done and we rose to the occasion. I thought it was good that we came from behind. I mean, give Amery credit, they played hard and everything. It was a good, good game. Those conditions probably favored Amery.
Absolutely. Yep.
But, so, we didn't spend a ridiculous amount of time going through corrections on that field because it's just different.
Right. So, the only thing we haven't talked about is special teams. Gus didn't come out on the field except for the punt.
I thought he was huge punting, though. He had some really good punts. He was poised, and Alec had a snap that kind of bounced to him. And, he was under pressure. And I'll tell you one thing that Gus does, he can unload that thing quickly.
Yep.
He's very quick, and he's been very solid all year.
Did you give him the, hey, if someone gets close to you, be a soccer player and go down, pretend like the soccer flop? You didn't give him that advice at all?
I did not give him the soccer flop advice, no.
Because I feel like that's something that, those soccer players, they all
Yeah.
But I believe he punted 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was down inside the 20.
Mm-hmm.
That one was actually into the wind.
Yeah.
So that was a big one as far as field position goes.
Yeah, he really did a great job.
Were you surprised when Amery scored their first touchdown and ran their extra point kicker out?
A little bit, like we, in pregame, part of our pregame thing is we always do a punt right before the kickoff and we do an extra point. And we went out to do our extra point. Gus was okay, in pregame, again, the field was better. The field was getting progressively worse. So in our pregame, we tried to do one and Gus missed it, horribly.
Right.
He just slipped out and I just said, hey, just go punt it. We're not, the decision was made before the game for me that we're not going to kick.
Well, and to have a successful kick, obviously the blocking, but the snap, the hold, and the kick.
Plant. You got to be able to plant, and that's why you can't kick.
All of those things become much more difficult when the ball is wet and the field is wet. So otherwise, I thought special teams wise, we did have a decent return on a punt. Gavin took one. I think it was less than 20 yards. Mm-hmm. And then I think Amery had a decent kickoff return.
They did have one,
to keep them out of the nice grass into the
put them back in the mud. Yeah.
So all in all, you take the win. You go on the road. You take the win. You end the season 7-2, 5-2 in conference. 3rd place in conference. Rice Lake goes to D3 for the playoffs. So I think, we had a pretty good idea coming into Saturday. The D4 middle border teams are all going to be together, which they were. And beyond that, probably Bloomer, probably Altoona, and the other 2 spots, who knows how that's going to end up.
Right.
So you see the bracket Saturday, and what do you think?
I was surprised. Mosinee had not been projected to be a Division 4 team. They're a big Division 4. They're right near the cut line. Maybe they were the cut line.
I would assume I haven't seen it, but I would guess that they were.
Because they were always projected to be Division 3.
Right.
So they were conference champion, and so they get the 2. Then Oconto Falls, another conference champion, got the 3. We have the same record as them. I feel like we're in a much, much tougher league than they are, but that's what's great about the playoffs is you get to prove those types of things.
Right.
Other, I guess the rest of the bracket, Ellsworth was a 5 seed, Somerset the 6. The 7 was Bloomer, and the 8 was Altoona. There you go.
So the way that it works out is we'll send a middle border team in Somerset 4 hours to the east to play Oconto Falls.
Right.
Is that game Friday night? I'm assuming they'll probably play Friday night.
Yeah.
The winner of that game will play the winner of Mosinee and Bloomer. And Mosinee, we were talking right before, lost early to Stratford.
Right.
And then have only, in conference this year, they gave up a total of 3 points.
It's pretty darn impressive.
And so
they play in the Great Northern, Great Northern League, and I do know a little bit about that league. Medford's one of the better teams. Merrill played Osceola shut out Merrill this year in I think it was week 2, 41-0. But again, Merrill was at the bottom of their league.
Right.
So,
And then the top half of the bracket is the middle border plus Altoona, who will be in the middle border next year, right? So Central will welcome Altoona. Altoona was finished 4-5 on the year, 3-4 in conference, but was able to sneak in. And then we will have a rematch at Kingfield of What week was it? Week 6, week 5, whatever it was. The Ellsworth Panthers coming back to town.
I think it actually might have been like week 4.
Okay. How do you feel about a rematch against a conference opponent?
It's I really don't have we have familiarity with them.
Right.
We gotta beat them. It doesn't matter who you're playing because of the playoffs. It's a different, it's a different season, and we gotta be ready to roll. We expect to play very good, play great defense, and we expect to score a lot of points and have a similar result. That's our plan. I mean, there's, it's we'll learn things from that first matchup. They will too, but we're very excited for opportunity that we'll have at King Field on Friday night.
Okay. I don't know that there's a whole lot more to say about that. It's early in the week, so as far as how things go, plus we keep the cards close to the vest when it's this time.
Well, we literally have no idea what Cal Smith's status is going to be.
Right.
Don't know. We do know that I've obviously spoken with Cal, and he said he's feeling significantly better than he was Friday night. Now, will he be able to play on this Friday? We'll see. I mean, obviously, we're going to err on the side of caution because we don't want to have a setback.
Right.
But we'll see. We'll see what's going on. Maybe he'll play, maybe he won't. We'll see.
So we'll move on away from high school football, even though we didn't talk a ton about high school football because, speaking of backup quarterbacks, your favorite college team looks like they're going to be rolling with their backup quarterback now for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, that's what I hear. That was a very, very painful offensive performance by the Badgers. I do think there's a little bit of a, people are frustrated. Wisconsin has a power run game roster.
Right.
Coach Fickle's hired. They signed some recruits. Those recruits really aren't playing. They signed some guys in the transfer portal, several of which are playing.
Right.
But that's not a roster overhaul, and it's going to take time.
Right.
I thought the defense played very well. Now granted, there's one dimension there. They're going to run the ball, so you should, when people are going to run. And they did a pretty good job, minus that big run that they surrendered. But I guess I feel better about the defense than I do the offense. I'm sure that's going to come, but it might take some time. So I don't think it's unreasonable to think Wisconsin could wind up 9-3.
Okay.
Obviously not going to be favored against Ohio State. That's not this Saturday, but the following one. Illinois will be a real tough contest this weekend. But I believe that those are things that they're capable of doing if they can get a little rhythm. And Braden Locke, I'm sure, is a good thrower. He's probably not as mobile as Mordecai, but we'll see. We'll see what he does, and they'll probably have a little different game plan tailored to what he can do.
And there's some Illinois coaching staff members pretty familiar with members of this team, right?
Oh, I would think so. Yeah, I mean, Coach Bielema has a number of former Badgers there, and there's certainly they know the personnel.
And Jim Leonard is on there.
Yeah, Jimmy Leonard is going to be he coaches, I believe, through Thursday, Monday through Thursday or Sunday
so
through
he's
Thursday. He doesn't go to the games. He's in his role, but he's huge in the game planning.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's just the way it is with that position.
So he wants to be. I mean, his whole thing was being close to family.
Mm-hmm.
So now he can come home and spend the weekend. And
right.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I've heard that he's enjoying the time with his family. I'm sure this is a huge one for him, obviously.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no doubt.
So then you go from Badger lost Saturday, no Packers on Sunday. Well, what's a Sunday like for you when you're not watching the Pack?
That's just getting ready to try to beat Ellsworth, and
yeah.
Spent a lot of time, looking at film, and had a couple games and looking at our last game and meeting with staff and things of that nature. So that's pretty standard Sunday.
Yes.
I usually block time to watch the Pack, but.
Has Ellsworth done anything differently since we played them?
I
mean, they've had games where they've dropped 40.
Yeah.
Twice.
Yeah, they just had a great game with Prescott, week 8, unbelievable game. They scored 40. They beat Prescott. Yeah, I mean they're a tough team. I mean they're good up front. They're doing similar. They've had a couple little things that they've changed. They're doing they did a thing we had. They have an orbit motion they're doing, and they have they did a motion, a jet that turned up in the A gap. that went for a touchdown against Prescott.
Okay.
That's the first time we'd seen it. I'm sure it was his first time Prescott had seen it too.
I was
So
looking
a
at
couple of things.
one of their box scores. They have a 6'4" junior running back that ran for 130 yards.
They've had a couple injuries there, and they've had they've had a little turnover.
He didn't play. I don't think any offense.
I don't think so either.
Since.
Yeah, so we'll see. It'll be a little bit different, Their quarterback Griffin Blomberg, who is a good player. I thought he was their best linebacker. I believe he suffered an ACL injury.
Okay.
And he played with it for a lot of the year, played with the injury, but then got to a point where he couldn't continue.
Okay.
So
he played against us.
He did.
But he hasn't played since.
Correct.
Gotcha. All right, well, we'll leave it at that for this week. Level 1 playoff game coming to you. It'll be King Field on Friday night. Hopefully there's no rain. Hopefully there's no wind. Hopefully it's nice.
Forecast is good.
Both for the players on the field and also for us on the top. It would have been miserable if we were at home on Friday. The turf would have been nice. It would have been great for the players.
Oh,
it would have been horrible for the broadcasters. So, give or take, I guess, a little bit. We'll be back Friday night live from King Field for a playoff game, and then we'll do this next week, and then hopefully we'll have another game to talk about for next Friday. So, Dan Keefer, Jeremy Nagar, this was Keefer's Corner, and we'll see you Friday. So long.